I remember the first time I met Zach. It was early spring, and the community college I taught part-time at had just started its adult learning initiative. I was one of the volunteers, mostly retired teachers or professionals who still wanted to contribute. At 42, divorced, with my daughter off at college, I had time, and I wanted to feel useful again. Zach was one of the last students to enter the room. Everyone else had already settled in, opening their notebooks or sipping from travel mugs. He slipped in quietly, shoulders slightly hunched, baseball cap pulled low, eyes darting away from mine when I smiled at him. I noticed his hands trembled a bit as he opened his folder. There was something in the way he sat, alert but guarded, that made me instinctively soften. He was younger than most of the others, maybe in his late 20s. Definitely not your typical community class student. The course was a basic writing workshop, nothing fancy, but to my surprise, he stayed after the first session. Then the second. Then every week after that. At first, Zach hardly spoke. He'd nod during discussions, sometimes scribble a few lines when I gave out writing prompts. But his eyes, they always seemed to be scanning the room, watching, absorbing, trying to figure out if he belonged. One day, after class, he waited until everyone had left. I was erasing the whiteboard when I noticed him lingering near the door. "Miss Parker?" His voice was low but steady. "Could I, ask you something?" "Of course," I said, putting down the marker. "What's on your mind?" "I'm not very good with this stuff," he said, motioning toward the notes in his hand. "Writing, I mean. I dropped out of school years ago. Thought maybe if I could learn how to say things better, maybe I could get a job where people listen." I paused, heart tugging just slightly. "You're already saying things," I said gently. "Writing just helps you shape them. Want me to look at your work one-on-one?" He hesitated. His hand trembled slightly again, and he clenched it into a fist to stop the shaking. "Only if you have time," he muttered. So we started meeting on Tuesdays and Thursdays after class. Just an hour in the small student lounge, where the vending machines hummed and few people passed by. At first, he'd bring short notes or a journal entry. Then slowly stories. Fiction mostly. About people trying to escape something, poverty, pain, sometimes even themselves. His writing wasn't polished, but it was raw, honest, and sometimes hauntingly beautiful. And over time, something shifted between us. Subtle, unspoken. One evening, the campus lights flickered off as we stayed too late. I apologized, laughing, and offered him a ride home. He declined, walking off into the dim-lit street. But I watched him from my car, just to make sure he got around the corner safely. I didn't ask much about his past, but pieces came out anyway. He'd grown up in the foster system, moved around a lot. Trouble in his teens. He'd worked construction, retail, anything he could get. The writing class was his way of reaching for something more. One day, he brought in a piece that was deeply personal, about a boy hiding a secret he thought would make people leave him. He read it aloud, voice cracking at one line. His hands shook as he turned the pages, and I could see how much it cost him. When he finished, he looked at me, expecting judgment. But I only nodded. "That was brave," I said softly. "And really, really powerful." He swallowed hard, eyes lowering. "You're not weirded out?" I shook my head. Not even a little. We sat in silence for a while after that. Something had opened. Not just in his writing, but in our connection. A space where neither of us had to pretend. Weeks passed. Our sessions turned into longer conversations. He told me about his mother, who had disappeared when he was a boy. I told him about my ex-husband, who left after falling out of love. There was something strange and soothing about how easily our lives intertwined in those quiet hours. Then came the night that changed everything. It was raining hard, and he texted me before class. "Can we meet somewhere quieter today?" Too much noise in the lounge. I agreed and offered my place. It was just 15 minutes from campus, and I'd hosted a few students before for group projects. He arrived soaked, holding his notebook like a shield. I gave him a towel and some tea, and we sat at my kitchen table, the storm thudding against the windows. We didn't talk much at first. He pulled out his latest story, eyes uncertain. I read it quietly while he sat across from me. When I finished, I looked up and found his eyes locked on mine. There was something different in them. Not fear, not uncertainty, just quiet, raw intensity. I don't know what this is, he whispered, but when I'm around you, I don't feel broken. I swallowed, heart racing. You're not broken, Zach, I said, reaching across the table without thinking. You're growing. He flinched slightly at the touch, but didn't pull away. Instead, his hand slowly turned and closed over mine. And that's when I felt it, his whole body trembled. A deep, nervous shake that came from somewhere within. And still, he didn't let go. I could have pulled my hand away. I probably should have. There was a line between teacher and student, and even if this wasn't a traditional school setting, even if he wasn't some teenager and I wasn't some authority figure, I knew how people would see it. But I didn't pull away. Instead, I moved my fingers gently against his palm, grounding him. His breathing slowed. The shaking eased. I'm scared, he admitted. Me too, I whispered. We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't cross any boundaries that night. We just sat there, hands clasped, two souls recognizing each other's damage and choosing not to run. After that night, something between us deepened, but we kept things simple. We still met twice a week. He still brought his stories. But there was a gentleness now and understanding. I saw how much he trusted me, not just as a mentor, but as someone who saw him as whole. Eventually, he applied for a creative writing program. I helped him prepare his samples, write his personal statement. The day he got his acceptance email, he ran into my class and hugged me tight. He didn't shake that time. I wouldn't have done this without you, he said. I think you would have, I smiled. But I'm glad I got to be part of it. He left for the university a few months later. We stayed in touch. Emails, the occasional phone call. He sent me his first published piece, a short story about a woman who helped a man find his voice. Years passed. Then one afternoon, I opened the door of my modest home and found him standing there, taller, stronger, older, but still unmistakably Zach. I wanted to thank you in person, he said. For what? For never pulling away. When I shook, when I doubted, when I had nothing, you stayed. This time, when he reached for my hand, it was steady. And I realized something. Sometimes, the most meaningful stories aren't the ones we write on paper. They're the ones we live quietly, tenderly, moment by moment, with the people who remind us we're not alone. And that's the real story. I taught him once, and in doing so, I let him teach me, too.